So, you want to captain the Fletcher. Well, do you like lots of guns? Do you like the history of this ship and mostly the class? And do you like being the first one to be destroyed instantly? Well, then the Fletcher is for you. And if you're new to my channel, feel free to subscribe. It would mean the world to me. And let's begin. The Fletcher class, I'm going to do basically the class, not the actual ship for this video, so don't be hating too much. But the whole Fletcher class is amazing. There were 175 of them created for World War II, and they pretty much single-handedly helped out winning in the Pacific Fleet, or at least in the Pacific campaign. At least in my opinion, I know all the credit and glory goes to the carriers, but I would say second place would definitely be these destroyers. They played huge pertinent parts in the war. They're basically the backbone, along with like the Cleveland class destroyers, or Cleveland class cruisers, excuse me. So basically, I put them second, then Cleveland third. Now, the Fletcher itself was created in October 1941, with most of them also continuing on to the Korean War, which is really nice. They pretty much got refits here and there throughout both wars. For the most part, most of their refits were putting more AA defense on, or for the Korean War, some of them even got rockets, which was kind of interesting. But the one that I truly want to focus on today is the USS Johnston. And the reason why I say the USS Johnston is it's probably one of the most famous Fletcher class destroyers. At least in my opinion. I know there's some other ones like the USS Kidd. Yes, that's still a thing. You can even go see her still. But I think the USS Johnston's probably one of the most famous one because she was in Taffy 3. Now, if that kind of rings a bell to you, let's just say they took on the Yamato during the Battle of Ley Gulf, one of the biggest naval battles in history. And to be like, they kind of break down Ley Gulf, the Battle of Ley Gulf, into like separate battles. So the one that I'm really truly focusing on is the Battle of Shamir. Sorry if I totally Shamir. Totally if I totally butchered that, but you know me. You should know that by now. I suck at pronunciations. But basically, what this is Taffy 3, which had just 6 escort carriers, which are not, you know, big, heavy carriers like a Lexington or Enterprise or anything like that. They're just carriers that are helping support the fleet, doing recon, spotting submarines, that type of stuff. Then you have 3 destroyers, 3 Fletcher class destroyers, including the Johnson, and 4 escort destroyers. So that's Taffy 3. Very small, right? Nothing, you know, crazy, nothing, no battleships, no heavy cruisers, light cruisers or anything like that. They go against the Second Fleet of Japan, which had 4 battleships. One of them was the Yamato. 6 heavy cruisers, 2 light cruisers, 11 destroyers, and 30 aircrafts from basically kamikazes. Now, we have this battle, right? You have a very, very small task force versus the Yamato and everything else that I just mentioned. You would instantly think that Taffy 3 would pretty much just get wiped to the floor. But surprisingly, they hold their own, and they make the Japanese retreat eventually. They did have to retreat themselves, but they basically did a lot. That is the Fletcher class. To begin with, the Johnson basically started its just YOLO run and did an attack run and launched all of its torpedoes and just was starting to fire like crazy, and also laying down smoke screens. The other Fletcher class destroyers also kind of did the same thing of launching their torpedoes, setting down smoke screens for the escort carriers to escape. Yes, in the end, they did lose 2 escort carriers, but considering what they were going against, it's impressive. There's a lot of debate on why Taffy 3 got away with most of the things, and a lot of it's because we believe, according to historical records, is the Japanese just did not recognize these ships very well, and they were expecting a larger fleet instead of Taffy 3, so they basically were arming themselves with armor piercing. Now, just like in game, armor piercing is going to go right through a destroyer, and so that's kind of the reason why this is such a pivotal moment for the Japanese, is because they were loading armor piercing, and Taffy 3, of course, is launching torpedoes, launching HE, launching heavy armor piercing, because they can actually see that these are heavy cruisers and battleships. So it's just mind-blowing, the technology differences between the two, and the kind of like the communication and information that they have gotten. Once again, the Johnson is kind of the most famous one. She did get hit multiple times, but she did take down help take down 3 heavy cruisers, damage 3 other ones, and make the Yamato help her turn around, basically sell her right back to Tokyo, because she did not do much else, just because of the torpedo run and how the Yamato had to avoid these torpedoes. The ship itself battled to the very end. She was damaged multiple times, as I kind of said, and literally it was a front-facing turret that was like literally still firing as the ship was going down. So once again, hats off to all the sailors that died on this, but they were just guts. There was so much guts, so much courage, and that kind of like that was like a rallying cry for the rest of the Battle of Le Golfe. But I mean, if the Yamato and this fleet basically just ran over Taffy 3, they could have had flanks on the remaining U.S. fleet, which is not a good thing. If you're a tactician of any type, you would kind of know, oh man, my flank is open, I'm going to be dead. But this small group, Taffy 3, with the Johnson, with Fletcher Class destroyers, held off. And so that's why I truly love the history of this. Please feel free to like look up like History Channel. There was a good history on it, mostly because it was more focused on the Yamato, but it still talks about the Johnson because the Yamato was in this battle, and it does talk about the remaining bit of the Battle of Le Golfe. Le Golfe. Man, I am awful at pronunciation. So with that being said, in game, as I go on for like 7 minutes of building up this epic history, you're like, man, this ship must be amazing in game. It has its moments. It's got really good guns. It's got the same, you know, US type of characteristics. Its torpedoes are a little bit slower than what you would dream of. But mostly it's your guns. If you are within 6 kilometers of another destroyer, you are going to destroy them for the most part. If they're further away, good luck. Also, if it's the French, we're going to put an asterisk by that because they are so gosh darn fast. So with that being said, they're pretty much the first and original gunboat in the game. And it's starting to show a little bit. There's just, of course, always that power creep of, you know, you got your carriers, you got everything in the world, I feel like, has a radar to detect you. Not really, it's just, you know, the US and the Soviet, but it truly does feel like you're going to be constantly spotted, even though you can get your detection range down to 5.7 with a captain, with a module, and with a camo, which is amazing, but you still get out detected or outspotted by the Yamato, which is what you're going to be mostly facing, most likely, unless you're going against a Kitakaze. But a Kitakaze's detection range is a lot worse than yours, so there's that. It's a good ship. It's just a struggle because I feel like, I don't know why, but out of all the destroyers out there, if you're in a Fletcher, everybody just like, this is like true with all destroyers, but I feel like it's more true with the Fletcher, where everybody just kind of stops and just focuses you down as soon as you're spotted. That's why it's so difficult to get any like recording good gameplay of this. It just, I did not last that long. I also feel like in game, the ship is nothing like the historical ship, just purely because you cannot take that much damage. You take a little bit of damage and you're pretty much roasted. Then again, you are targeted by multiple things, and probably also a Smolensk too, if we want to throw that in there. But you just cannot take a lot of damage. You're very weak on that front, which is very troublesome because you want to, you want to get in there, you want to fight, you want to be like knife fighting other destroyers, but you can't because you're pretty weak. And then if another cruiser or something like that starts attacking you, then you're kind of doomed. With all that being said, I don't want to scare you guys from this ship. It's still a really good ship. You just have to learn a lot more. I feel like you have to do a lot more in this ship to be good at it. You can see the normal Fletcher players, which that's what I'm going to be considering myself as, or worse Fletcher players. And then you see like the top tier Fletcher players, which are knowing when to go into a capture circle, knowing when to use their torpedoes versus their guns. It just... I'm getting there myself. I don't know all the tricks and trades, but I'm getting there. It's just a learning experience. You want to use islands as cover as much as possible. You do not want to go into the capture circle first thing. Once again, there's a life-changing event with destroyers. About tier 6, that's whenever everything that you learned as a destroyer goes out the window. So now, the next thing is, I feel like she needs some type of helper. Some type of buff, maybe. Maybe give her a little bit more HP, because right now I just feel like I get one-shotted too easily, or if I get focused just barely, or sniffed or sneezed at, I pretty much just lose my whole entire life, health-wise. So I wish there was like a little bit of a buff. Yes. You do get a little bit more health whenever you get the updated hull, but I mean, even still, I just feel like, even now that I'm like looking back on my overall history of playing the game, whenever I'm in a different ship, I feel like Fletchers are usually the first ship to die, if I see one. It's just a lot of calculating risk. And like the USS Johnson, you kind of have to have balls of steel and know how to like maneuver yourself, avoid everything, and just do everything that you can to be producing as much credits and XP as you possibly can, while also going down in a ball of flame. Because I feel like you're going to go down in the ball of flame more often than not in this ship, just purely because of what can counter you. There's way too many counters out there, and that's pretty much for all destroyers, but once again, that's my 2 cents. Play her kind of reserved, be a spotter, don't go be aggressive, but you need to know when to turn on the aggression. So about late game, as long as you have some type of support, I think you could play aggressive. And once you do play aggressive, it just mind-blowing how much you can win. But with that being said, I know it was kind of more of a ramble about the Fletcher in general. It's just, the Fletcher, I feel like, it's just all destroyers. It's really hard to say, like, oh, do this, and you win easily. It's just like, do you have support? Cool. Then you could be aggressive. Do you not have support? Just spot. Do you have support and you know that there's other destroyers that can outspot you? Cool. Just be a spotting ship. Do you see a lot of radar? Cool. Go away. It just, you got, there's so many factors that go involved with the playing of a destroyer, which is the most annoying and most difficult thing. Now, with that being said, here are the captain perks for you. Nothing crazy if you've been going down the line of the USS, whole USS destroyer. Woo! I just totally forgot what they were called, didn't I? But basically, nothing super crazy, just the typical stealth, get fires, health, and getting ready for the gearing, pretty much. So you're just kind of prepping yourself for the gearing. You do have great AA defense for the most part. If you're bottom tier, it's not going to be as good against like the tier 10 carriers, but you can survive. So once again, this was kind of more of a video to show you the history and kind of bring to light that the Fletcher class of destroyers are amazing, and I'm super excited about them. The gameplay of it, it's really hard. It's really hard, just so that you guys know. Now, with that being said, hopefully you guys enjoy. Feel free to leave a comment down below on what ship you want to see next. And let me know if you like more of the history side of things or more of the gameplay side of things. I know I need to get better at both, probably, and more editing, but whatever. We'll get there. With that being said, hopefully you guys have a wonderful day, and thanks for watching. Thanks. Bye-bye.